While my dad was in the hospital for his cancer treatment, my mom would stay with him while I walked around and bought food. Usually I'd go to the cafe to hang out and relax before I went back up. Very stressed at the time, one time I went to the cafe for some coffee. When I went to pay, they asked for my nursing ID. I told them that I didn't work there. They gave me a puzzled look and finally said, "I would have thought twice. You give off a nurse aura. I just thought you were off duty." The other time was with a lady that was looking for her husband. At the time, my dad wasn't doing too good, so me and my mom had to wear nurse coverings and whatnot. Anyways, the lady walked up to me and asked if I could lead her to her husband. I kindly told her that I didn't work there and that my dad was in a serious condition. She gave me an angry look and demanded that I tell her now. She thought I was lying in order to get out of helping her. I told her again that I didn't work there, and after that she stormed up the nurse's station. She told the male nurse, "I demand to speak to her manager. She won't help me." The nurse looked at me, then told her, "I'm sorry man, but she doesn't work here, she's here with her mother and father. But I can help you." She looked at me and huffed, stormed off to her husband's room and never returned. 6 months later I am getting ready to get my CNA to help people in the hospital. My dad unfortunately lost his battle 6 months ago. There's never a moment that goes by that I never think of him. I walk into the drugstore at 6:03 p.m. Keep in mind I had no idea the pharmacy closed this early on a Saturday. I walked straight to the back and saw the bars down on the pharmacy. I was ready to walk out and I see the pharmacist and her tech at the front of the store. I asked, "Did y'all just close?" And she said, "Yeah, about 5 minutes ago." So I said, "Oh dang it," then started to walk out. She stopped me and says, "Well, how much is your prescription?" I said, "Less than 5. She said, "I'll just pay for it since we normally can't allow customer payments after we shut down the pharmacy." Something weird with their system, I guess. I told her absolutely not and that I will come back tomorrow. She insisted, so I went to the back with her and her tech. They opened back up the entire pharmacy and filled my prescription. Thank God I was able to pay for it. I would have Venmoed her regardless. I thanked them about 100 times and went to the front where the manager was and told him how great they were, and I asked how I can leave some sort of review. He told me to go on the receipt they gave me to fill out the survey, and you better believe I wrote to give those girls some sort of promotion or raise. Best customer service I have ever had. Especially after a long, grueling shift as a pharmacist, even staying 5 minutes extra was so kind of them. I work at a fairly small local ISP as a customer support agent. I got a call yesterday from a client claiming that he didn't get the speed he was paying for, 1 gigabit per second. After about 20 minutes of troubleshooting, it becomes clear to me that the customer didn't have any devices at home that could handle speeds faster than 100 megabits per second. I explain this to the customer and he seems to understand this. He then continues to ask if I'm sure there isn't anything wrong with our core switch in the area about 6 times in as many minutes. I explain that even if there were something wrong with it, we really couldn't check that before he tested his speed with something that could handle 1 gigabit per second. He finally seems to realize this and ends the call. 20 minutes later he calls again, this time because he has gone to a neighbor to check what speed he gets there, and he still only reaches about 100 megabits per second. He therefore believes that I was lying to him about the core switch and more or less demands that we come and exchange it for a new one. Once again I explain that just because another customer in the same area has a problem similar to him, we can't exchange the core switch because it's too expensive. I tell him that his problem is on his end and that it means nothing since he can't know if he gets more than 100 megabits per second, and that if his neighbor has problems he is welcome to give us a call since we can't troubleshoot something with the customer's neighbor. After about 20 minutes of this I start to get really irritated and say that we can't do anything more at the time and that I unfortunately have to end the call because there was a call queue. There wasn't, but I was getting really sick of him. His answer to that is as follows. "Okay, then I will go around to every apartment in the area that I can get access to and check if they get the speeds they are paying for." I simply say you do that and then say bye and hang up. This seriously made me question my line of work. So this is something I've come up against a ridiculous number of times in the last month or two. What do you mean that's out of stock? Can't you get more? I've been shopping here for forever. No. We can't. Out of stock generally means out of stock. I don't know about other companies, but at my store if we can order it for you or find it somewhere else we will tell you. It is so very frustrating to have so many people act like they honestly think we are lying to customers about being able to get product and are putting in the effort for only a select few. Had a guy come in this morning looking for an item that we've been out of for a few weeks. My coworker explained to him that we had been out of it and when asked said that no, it was not currently orderable. The guy stood there for a few minutes hemming and hawing and saying that it's such a common item, he couldn't believe we didn't have it. At this point my coworker called me over, as I'm the senior employee, and asked me, as if to clarify that we couldn't order the product. I did a quick search and told the customer that no we couldn't. He started almost whining that he's been a loyal customer of ours for years. Doesn't that make a difference? After a bit of back and forth he started trying to explain to me how our inventory system works and that I'm just not that familiar with it, clearly. Because he used to work for Sears and all chain stores use the same systems. And if I do this he'll be able to get it. Would not let it go. I eventually just had to tell him he was being disruptive and bothering both staff and customers, and if he didn't stop I'd have to ask him to leave. He did not like that and tried to escalate the situation, asked for my manager, but as I'm the manager on duty today he couldn't, and eventually left after wandering the store for a good half hour muttering to himself. Another exciting tale in Adventures of LT Douche Nozzle. Today's story takes you on the journey of LT Douche Nozzle attempting to curb my promotion. Now to preface, the battalion I was a part of had a sort of rule, which I don't know if it is common army-wide. When someone was newly promoted to sergeant, they were transferred to another company. This way they could cycle new NCOs with new platoons and not stay with their current platoon. Now to the story. After going through the boards, memorizing regs and traditions that will eventually be brain dumped, I'm notified I'll be promoted soon. The excitement was short-lived in finding out that LT Douche Nozzle was looking to curb my promotion for the time being. Like I've said in the past, for purposes of obscurity I don't dive into my background, but for this reason it's useful. I was the supply sergeant for my unit. I was also an E4 slotted into a position for an E6. This occurred after my NCO snapped and threatened to kill the 1SG, CO and XO. Now, not to brag, I was a pretty stellar at supply. I was passed around the brigade to oversee change of command inventories after word got out that I did a change of command inventory for a mechanized HQ's company in 1 week, a task that can normally take 30 to 45 days. To continue on, my 1SG, who was not a fan of LT Douche Nozzle, let it slip that LT Douche Nozzle approached him in hopes of stalling my promotion. Enraged and at moment I was for sure was going to result in a demotion, I walked into his office and unleashed 1.5 years of pent-up anger on his ass. LT Douche Nozzle tried to justify it in this would mean you'd be moving to another company and I don't feel the necessity to build up a relationship with a new supply sergeant, this just makes it easier. Now some of you may think just go to your CO, but as I've said before, my CO was a drunken spineless coward whose motto was if that's what the XO wants. If LT Douche Nozzle whispered in his ear to halt my promotion, that's what was going to happen. Standing in his office I'm at pre-stroke rage mode when I hear a knock. I open the door and who's standing before me? Our BNXO, Major J. Major J asks. Major J, I wanted to make sure everything was alright in here. LTDN, no. This soon-to-be PFC felt he could walk into my office and speak to me in a certain disrespectful tone. Major J, what the flip, G, why? Me, turns to LTDN. Yes, why? LT Douche Nozzle freezes up and explains. I'm dismissed by Major J to return to my office. Now I do get my ass chewed out by my CO and Major J, but nothing comes of it. One should say that this move was the first step in the downfall of LT Douche Nozzle. Stay tuned for another story in the adventures of LT Douche Nozzle. Next, and what everyone has been waiting for, we'll explore the downfall of LT Douche Nozzle. I had two close friends whilst I worked in the call center, and the three of us always found amusement in each other getting screamed at by Karens. To us, there was nothing funnier than watching one of us try their best to stay professional whilst getting abused. We would giggle uncontrollably and be happy that this time we were not the unlucky one. Well, this time it did a complete 180. My friend had the worst customer we've ever had on the phone. Stereotypical Karen, screaming at him for something completely out of his control. Watching my friend try to deal with it whilst giving us glances that could only be interpreted as him saying please end my life was hilarious. The call finally ended after about an hour of abuse. My colleague told me the full story and said she apparently ended the call so she could calm down her words. A minute later my phone rang, and it was her. I don't know what she did to try to calm down, but it clearly didn't work. She was even angrier. For the next hour she tormented me non-stop whilst my two friends then had their fun laughing at my misfortune, exactly what I deserved. One night I was waiting for my friend to pick me up. I see her car pull up and come out of the front door doing this weird hobble run that's part of an inside joke we have. As I approach the car, I see a fearful woman in the passenger side looking at me like I'm disturbed. I assume we're giving someone else a lift too and bust out laughing as I reach for the back door ready to explain myself. The driver's side opens and I hear the woman quickly lock the doors. A delivery guy steps out with a bunch of bags and I realize how stupid I am. I run back into the house, grab cash for him and promptly die inside. 2 minutes later, my friend's car pulls up. I run out to it yelling "Oh my God" in preparation for the embarrassing story I'm about to tell her. I go to open the passenger side door again and the interior lights come on, illuminating that same nervous-looking woman. Delivery guy gives me the side eye and tells me he'd dropped something earlier and came back for it. I go back inside again and refuse to come out until my friend texts me that she's here. TL, doctor accidentally traumatized a woman in an unmarked delivery car. I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The Granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the Granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. I ran a gas station in Upper South Carolina that was the last stop for many miles up to North Carolina. I worked the whole chain for many years in about 10 stores as a manager and became very well known. I was friendly and knew everyone's name and gave ear to so many things in an effort to be helpful. I opened the store at 4:30 a.m. every morning, except maybe a day off a week, and depending on help, could pull a lot of overtime hours. So here comes Friday, the busiest sales day of the week. I was scheduled off at 2 p.m., around 1:30, after a busy 9 hours, I get the call, "Hi, I'm sick, I won't be able to come in tonight." Of course, it's payday and Friday, time to get high. My other closer wasn't scheduled till 4:30. It gets to be 4 and I get another call. Blah blah blah, my mom, blah blah blah, I can't come in tonight, sorry, blah blah. Well, at almost 12 hours in, and with a new baby at home I'm pretty mad, but don't have any options so the night keeps going. Dinner rush comes. Call-ins for pizzas and wings, the essential beer, cigs, drug paraphernalia, and scratch tickets, and I'm all by myself. Nobody I called wants to come work on their Friday night off. I'm exhausted, my wife is mad, and the customers just keep rolling through. I get in another late evening rush with a line of about 10 in front of me and here come 2 females dressed to win every free drink in the club all night. I'm hopping around trying to serve my customers and they come straight around the line and demand I tell them how to get to Atlanta. The one girl cut off my customer telling me what they wanted. I look out and see my customers look mad about being cut in front of. The girls are being very demanding, we're in a big hurry, even after I asked for just a second to finish the customer I had in front of me. None of them tell these girls how to get there and the girls don't bother asking anyone but me. So I cue my malicious compliance. I start pointing out the window and describing the signs they'll see and which way to turn at the stop sign, etc. I do all of this in the friendliest voice possible with a kind smile. I know the roads and I know which one goes the farthest without city signs. I sent them north into the mountains to get to Charlotte, which is about 2 hours in the wrong direction of getting to Atlanta, 2 hours south of where we stood. None of my customers corrected me, or gave any sign as to what I was doing, so these girls run out the door without even a thank you. They speed off into the night straight in the direction I gave them. Everyone in the store is laughing and talking about it. I never saw those females again, but my customers didn't forget and still laughed about it for months to come. So I'm a newlywed. While I love my in-laws to death, they definitely have their quirks. On the family vacation I'm now a part of, I was tasked with getting a laptop ready for a cousin I'd acquired in the marriage. It was a work laptop my new grandfather had used, and they'd let him keep it when he left. I'm a fresh engineering graduate with a knack for electronics from the metal to the code, so I probably was the best choice for the task, to be fair. There's no easy way to put it, it was old. 3 GB of RAM, 60 GB of storage, and an Intel Duo CPU, we're talking about a decade and change old. The part that makes it better, and yet so much worse, is that it was actually older than the cousin who was going to be getting it. On one hand, it's not like it'll be expected to record and livestream AAA games. On the other hand, the computer was older than the person using it. Anyway, I just needed to get that off my chest. It took me 3 days of checking in on it to install Windows 10, it had 7, install Firefox, to prevent them from installing Chrome, and run transcript, make sure no bloatware came with the new install. And I had a good drink or two to get through the grinning and bearing it. So I was at the laundromat one day doing laundry with my sister. I left the clothes with my sister as they washed and I went to the Dollar General next door. I was looking for some cleaning wipes to clean my laundry baskets. While looking for some I get stopped by a little old lady. She asked me where the ice cream was. So I showed her where it was and was about to leave when she asked me to help her shop. I spent at least 20 minutes or more helping her shop for her groceries. When she was done shopping she asked me to put more minutes on her phone than call her a taxi. So I did. I left the store with nothing but I felt good because I helped a little old lady shop. So apologies for any spelling or formatting on mobile. So this happened last week. I have a weekly prescription that I have collected every Wednesday for the last 6 months, Wednesday being the only day I have time to go. Anyway, last Wednesday I pop into the pharmacy to pick up my 7-day supply of meds. When the assistant came out she informed me that they had taken one away so I would only get 6 this week because I collected on Tuesday last week. As mentioned above I am never available to collect on a Tuesday so I know I collected Wednesday and I need the 7 days to get me through to the next Wednesday. So I tell the assistant this and she goes to get the pharmacist and this is the convo that followed. P equals pharmacist. And me of course. P, I can see here you collected on Tuesday last week so we can only give you 6 tablets. Me, I did not collect on Tuesday, there must be a mistake, I've always collected on Wednesday for months now. P, well the girl that signed it is dated it for Tuesday. Me, well she must have put the wrong date on it. P, doubling down, well this girl doesn't work a Wednesday. Me, well I don't know what to tell you but I've always collected Wednesdays, I'm not available on Tuesdays to collect so I don't know. P, well she doesn't work Wednesdays so maybe you're just confusing it with another week. Me, like I said I've always collected on Wednesdays, how will I get through to next Wednesday with one less? I'll be missing a day and I can't go a day without these. P, well you will have to collect on Tuesday. Me, I've already said I'm not available on Tuesdays, that's why I've always collected on Wednesdays. P, well unfortunately we can only give you 6 and you will have to pick up on Tuesday. Me, there must be a mistake, I can't lift these on Tuesday and I can't miss a day of taking these. I was beginning to get upset at this point. Pharmacist then walks off and talks to the other pharmacist. Pharmacist 2 comes over after about 10 minutes. P2, I've put a 7-day dose for you in there, there must have been an error with the dates, sorry about that. Me, thank you so much. Walk out in breath, This was such a stressful moment for me because even one day off these meds I would have experienced all sorts of effects even after only a few hours. I missed my scheduled time once before and it wasn't pleasant. I don't understand how it could be messed up so bad. If the girl doesn't work Wednesdays, then it means that either someone else signed her name or she signed after the fact, because I know for certain I'm not even in the area on Tuesdays. The mind boggles. Edit, fixing the format so it's readable. I was standing in front of the mirror after just completing my third sinus cleanse for the day and noticed a thick gray hair hanging out. It was thick and long, so much so I showed my wife. It was long enough to grab with my fingers, so I grabbed on tight and pulled down hard. The hierarchy of problems, searing pain, head lurched forward and snap. I kept it together for her to leave the room. This was a stitch from my nose surgery a week ago and I've removed it for the doctor. I think he's going to be happy and charge me less. I am hoping he won't notice when he removes the stents tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure that the fresh scar and new blood will be a telltale sign. DL, doctor, pulled what I thought was a gray hair out of my nostril only to find it was the end of a stitch from recent nose surgery. I had just graduated college, early 90s, and still lived in the area near the college. I worked part-time in a research lab and barely made any money. This you need to remember, for it relates to the story. Anyway, I needed something from the local hardware/garden center store. I don't remember what, but it was probably inexpensive considering my pay. As I ambled back to my truck, a woman stops me and asked about where the landscape stones were. Since I had passed them a moment earlier, I took her back and showed her. I then proceeded to leave when I hear her ask me another question about the stones. I replied that I didn't work at the store. She looked at me oddly and asked why I had helped her. My response: why not? Just trying to be friendly. I once again started to leave and she asked if I would be willing to help her load and unload the bricks for 20? Sure, what the heck, so I got them into the Jeep, a Wagoneer, or something like that, went to my truck and followed her to her house. I unloaded the material in the driveway and was getting ready to collect the money and head home, and she tells me that she doesn't have any cash. Besides, she said that I'd done a poor job stacking them. I knew I had just gotten scammed. She smirked and walked away as I gave her the finger, and turned to leave. Just as I got to my truck, her daughter, that I recognized from campus, caught up to me and asked me if her mom had cheated me, and continued to tell me that this had happened before and offers me 20 of her own money. I said thanks for the offer, but she wasn't the one that hired me. She said take the money, her dad gave her some spending money and would pay her back. I said how about buying me a beer sometime? She said sure, and we made plans when and where to meet just as mom stuck her head out of the door and told her daughter to get in the house and me to leave the property. Later on, the daughter and I hit it off great. Later I met the rest of the family. Since I was dating the daughter now, her dad was a great guy. I even helped him set the stones and he gave me some cash before we finished. Her sibs were about 8 to 10 years younger and were jerks like mom. That's the only time I had been mistaken for a store employee, and it worked out pretty well. Thanks for reading. Sorry it's so long. Zoom meetings and Google Meet are a part of our daily lives now. Normally, most of the people I know use their laptop's internal microphone and speakers. I'm in that category. Sometimes, with a 4-year-old at home, life is a little noisy, so I turn to the headset. That's what happened last Thursday night. I'm on a call with leaders from my small company. We're projecting the next few months. Things are bleak, especially given the ever-present population of people in the USA who use their masks as chin straps. Thanks guys, I need a break from the doom and gloom, and a chance to release my bladder. Here's where the tifu happens. I muted myself, then got up to use the bathroom. Without knowing it, Zoom tapped into this unknown feature on my headphones, a built-in microphone. So, while listening in on my call like a good team member, I begin to relieve myself. I then hear the sound of running water, followed by deafening silence, exaggerated further by the power of noise-canceling headphones. I brought my team to the bathroom with me. I stop midstream, rush back with a tense bladder, and check my settings. Sure enough, everyone could hear that I ignored TLC and chased the waterfalls. Too late. But I changed the setting back to my laptop's microphone, finished relieving myself, and returned to my meeting. No one said anything. But their eyes did. DL, doctor, my headset had a microphone that I didn't know about, and my team heard me unleash a urine stream of fury in the middle of long meeting. This happened about 8 years ago. Apologies as it's fairly anticlimactic and I am on mobile. DL, doctor is the title. I was at a cosmetics store trying to find some makeup. I was browsing a section and I had a crossbody bag on, and a bright pink neon galaxy printed jacket on. I think it was really obvious that I didn't work there, but nonetheless, this woman and her daughter approached me. She asked me kindly if I would check if they had any more of the product she had in her hand. I turned around and laughed a bit. "I am sorry, I don't work here." She looked me up and down, and realized her mistake and apologized profusely. "Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Wait, are you sure you don't work here?" Hee hee. We laugh it off. I check out and decide to go check out a few other stores. I walked into a clothing store and I'm just perusing. I tried on some clothes, and was just killing time. I see the lady and her daughter again out of the corner of my eye. The woman jokingly approached me, and grabbed a random item off the shelf. "Do you have any more of these?" And she just started laughing. Her daughter laughed but seemed to get embarrassed by her mother. Again, I check out and go to another store. While I am at the third store, I accidentally ran into them again. The woman sees me and just bursts out laughing. "I promise we aren't following you." And her daughter gets red in the face. "Mom, no." The lady just started laughing so hard. Couldn't muster any words through her laughter. Her daughter was just rolling her eyes. "Oh my God, Mom, get a grip." I just laughed. Luckily, I was on my way out and decided no more shopping to avoid the awkwardness of running into them again. They both waved to me as I walked away. It did give me a good laugh. I wish everyone was as easygoing sometimes. Some background. Several years ago, I was friends with a man we'll call A. A was a good friend at first, but after a couple of months he became very toxic. He would pick fights out of nothing, scream at me, call me names, blame me for everything going wrong in his life, and then gaslight me after the fight was over. I put up with this treatment for 4 years, but by the time this particular story takes place, the friendship was unraveling. The setup. I liked going to the local Ren Fair at the end of the season, which was Labor Day weekend. I hadn't been able to go with the 2 other Ren Fair friends I had who liked going earlier in the season, so A and I were making plans to go together. I thought everything was going fine. Letting my guard down was a mistake. I asked A if he wanted to carpool there. It took a while for him to text back, but his reply was "Did we decide to go together?" And I reminded him that's what we were discussing. He called me right after that, and like a fool I assumed it was just to finalize our plans. No, dear friends. When I picked up the phone, A began screaming at me that I was a selfish, self-centered B because me asking if he wanted to carpool was taking away his right to make decisions about his own life. I wish I was joking. At this point, every awful thing that happened in our friendship caught up to me and I kind of disassociated. I tuned A's screaming out and thought this guy is literally screaming at me because I asked him if he wanted to carpool. This is ridiculous. I'm done. I decided then that I wasn't going to the Ren Fair with this nut job. But how to tell him? The petty revenge. Now I has a sort of cheat code to get him to stop screaming at you. Just say wow. You're so right. I'm a terrible person for doing this. I'm so sorry. And that's exactly what I did. I immediately stopped yelling at me and calmed down. He was very insistent that he would tell me the Ren Fair plans before the day we were going. I had a feeling he wasn't going to do that. And I was right. He didn't text me until the day we were supposed to go. His text said I'm at the Ren Fair. Everyone I wanted to go with flaked on me. When are you getting here? What a beautiful thing to wake up to from someone you hate. I smirked at my phone. My reply? I'm not going. I turned my phone off and went back to sleep. Cue my phone blowing up in the meantime with texts from May saying things like, "What do you mean you're not going? I'm here by myself. What am I supposed to do? You were really adamant about going. This is really suspicious." I really enjoyed sleeping in that day. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. My friend Alan started dating this girl named Jess. So a bit of background, my buddy Alan is your super nerdy STEM guy. He wore dad shoes before they were cool, contributes to open source projects, and finds it impossible to get a girlfriend. I think because of this his standards are super low, and don't care if someone is incompatible. His girlfriend Jess, well, I don't think she is a good fit for him at all. Again, I didn't want to judge her and I want to be happy for my buddy. When we were over her apartment for dinner things got interesting. She spent 15 minutes describing how she hooked up with a guy that went on to the NFL. And how he still follows her on Instagram. I guess the funniest part was she did a tour of her apartment. When we went into her bedroom she showed us condoms she has. And I guess she was showing off how she practices safe sex. And she shows a box of Magnum XL condoms. And instantly I can see my buddy Alan start to glow red. What's funny too is that he is pretty tan, so you know it's extra hard for him to look red. And then she tells us that she never bought these, that her ex just left them here. When I heard that I saw Alan and he looked like he was about to pop. And I just started giggling, and then she is like, "What?" And I just started bursting out laughing. To the point where my ribs were hurting. I went to the bathroom to contain myself. The next day Alan rips me a new one. Saying that he loves Jess and he doesn't care about her past. And that I didn't need to call attention to her past. Honestly, I didn't laugh at Jess, it was more so his reaction to when Jess was laughing. And #X200B. DL, doctor, my friend's girlfriend showed us her condom collection and I just couldn't contain my laughter. This literally just happened this morning. I've been trying to get an interview with this engineering firm for quite some time and I've had no bites. Finally last week they reached out and we scheduled an interview for this morning at 9 a.m. I was super excited and prepared well for it. Well, Saturday night I came down with a sore throat and a lot of congestion. I don't think it's anything serious, but I know before the interview they have a COVID screening test where they ask questions and take your temp. I have a sore throat, congestion and somewhat fatigued. I woke up this morning and said flip it, I should try and reschedule. So I emailed my contact, apologized, and let them know that I wasn't feeling well and didn't want to risk anyone's health. I told them I'm open to a phone interview or rescheduling once I feel better. She responded by saying thanks. We'll be in touch. Anyways, it sounds like they won't be reaching out to me and I blew it. I know I did the right thing, but still. DL, doctor, got my dream job interview, had to cancel because I don't feel good. Doesn't seem like I'll be hearing back from them. This happened when I was 9 and my brother was 6. Sorry for any spelling mistakes, I'm on mobile. We were at my grandma's house, and I was tired. He kept on chasing me all around the house, then got me in trouble for running. My grandma then gives us a choice of candy, jelly beans or chocolate. He says chocolate and I got the jelly beans. 10 minutes later he comes into my room and asked if he could have some jelly beans. I say yes, he could have the last jelly bean. He leaves my room and I began to think about a way to make him angry. So I took out one jelly bean and closed the box. I went to him with the jelly bean and say, "Here's the jelly bean." He pops it in his mouth and swallows, then looks at me. I opened the box and poured the jelly beans into my mouth all at once. Seeing his face made the worth of the jelly beans tasting weird. I live with a couple and the male roommate recently got diagnosed with COVID-19. The girl roommate has been symptom-free, however we all went and got tested just in case. The girl roommate and I are COVID-free and she has been using my bathroom and sleeping in the living room while her BF is quarantined in their bedroom. Or was quarantined, I should say. This fool has been going out for drives and watching TV in the living room with the girlfriend. Mind you, she is pregnant. At one point me and the girl roommate were hanging out in the living room together watching TV, social distancing of course. However, now that the guy roommate has infested the common areas, I will not be in the common spaces any longer. I am so annoyed at how irresponsible and inconsiderate these people are. I want to move already. Pray for me please. I cannot afford to get sick with COVID. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. Unfortunately, this case is not very well documented on the internet. Basically, I only found one, German, entry in a missing persons database and several discussions in German discussion forums. All related newspaper articles are not available online anymore. It was the beginning of the internet age. Although I was just a kid at this time, I remember the case sparked a lot of discussions in my family. I'm from this region. Background. As I have only one source, the background is thin. Rolf Hannibal, /1950, was husband of Clara and father of Christina. He had a stable job. He also was a very active runner, up to marathon distance. Disappearance. On the evening of Monday, August 26, 1996, Rolf is running together with a jogging group of his sports club. The group met at the parking lot of a swimming pool in the small city of Kelkheim, a suburb of Frankfurt. During the run he separates from the group at the Weide, an inn for wanderers in the forest of the neighboring city Hofheim, to run ahead as the group was going to slow for him. That was the last time he was seen. When the rest of the group arrived back at the parking lot, around 2.5 kilometers distance from where he was last seen, they found his car but no trace of him. In the car the police found changing clothes and his wallet with all papers. An extensive search by police and firefighters did not find any traces. Theories. The police and his daughter, she put the search request and that theory online, believe that Rolf was fetched by a second person at the parking lot and started a new life. She even has the quite specific idea that her father opened up an art gallery in Spain. That seemed to be his dream. While this in itself is not a lot of information, and I'm sure the family and police have more details why they seem to be sure about that new life, I still find the surrounding circumstances quite strange. When you want to disappear and start a new life, why do it during a run with a jogging group? Why vanish with, probably, sweaty clothes? This is my husband's story. He works for a company that restocks the markets for their own product only. Quite often he gets stopped by customers asking where something is. Sometimes it's their own products so he is able to show them. Most times it's other items. Usually customers understand once he says he's just a vendor and doesn't work for the store. One funny time a lady asked him for some item which ensued this funny conversation. I was on the phone with him. H husband. L lady. L excuse me, where is product? H oh, I'm sorry, I don't work here. I just work for company. L okay. Well, if you did work here, where would it be? H I really wouldn't know. L but like pretend if you did work here. Where would it be? So this happened an hour ago, where I was done with work for the day at Walmart as a personal shopper. I don't usually have to interact with anyone because I work in the back room dispensing groceries. Today, however, I made a big mistake. Our store has to close at 8:30 so we can restock better and sanitize and stuff due to Rona. But I guess people don't realize the store closes, so they do a mad dash to get all their stuff by getting to the store at 8:15. This is where I come in. I clock out around 8:12 and then I walk out of the back room with my work vest on. Very odd of me to do this as I usually take it off when I am done. Immediately I am asked about lawn chairs and of course I do not know where they are because I work like a hobbit in the back room. So I tell them and they go away in a huff. About 8 paces later I am stopped again by someone looking for towels. As I am talking to towel lady, I see another taller lady down the aisle waving her hand violently, and I ask the towel lady if the tall lady is trying to get her attention. But she actually wanted my attention. Then tall lady got closer and didn't even give me the chance to help towel lady. She says we need the gun cabinet unlocked. So I say I don't have a key for it. She then yells who I can tell then? And I just make a run for the administration office so they can take care of it. I then go incognito and sneak out as just a regular customer. DLDR, I was yelled at after my work shift was over because I forgot to take off my work vest. This happened 13 years ago or so. I was about 12, and my stepdad and I went grocery shopping. This store had their employees wearing green aprons. My dad and I were in the produce area when a woman bagging up lemons looks at him and asks, "How long do lemons keep in the fridge?" I wouldn't know." "Well, you should, you work here." "No, I don't." "Oh. Sorry." Not only were we standing together with a cart, picking out veggies and fruit, but my dad wore jeans and blue polo. What made you think he was an employee? Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. Alright folks. Finally up after my 5-hour nap and amp, coherent enough to explain my FU. For the most part, I don't deal with seasonal allergies and I am very grateful for it. I don't know what is in the air this summer, but I've had a scratchy, sore throat, itchy ears and watery eyes for 2 weeks. I woke up this morning and could barely talk. Finally, I gave in and said I'd take some meds, girlfriend has been telling me to for ages. Grab the ones on my bedside table. Take 2, she says. Well, I go over to her bedside table and grab a bottle of pills. Pop 2 in my mouth and go about my morning. An hour later my girlfriend is taking tiny pills. I start cracking up because they are so small. She asked why I'm laughing, and when I explained she goes, "Okay, but you had these earlier." I was confused because I didn't have those pills but didn't think anything of it. Whatever. I end up shifting gears and getting back to work. All of a sudden I get hit with a wave of exhaustion. Can barely keep my eyes open, let alone work. Body is humming. My GF asked what's going on and if I need to go to the doctor when suddenly it clicks. Turns out I took a double dose of an extra-strength antihistamine, and not the non-drowsy type. I have taken antihistamines maybe twice in my entire life before this, and I decided to double down on the recommended dose for a healthy adult and an empty stomach. Long story short, we laughed over it until I passed out around 10:30 a.m. Woke up around 3:30 p.m. Thank God I had no important meetings lined up today. DL, doctor, drugged myself by taking the wrong allergy pills and slept through half the workday. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby, so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. This happened in my first full-time job, more years ago than I like to think about. I was working in a farm shop, selling fruit and veg. My co-worker, L, was as thick as two short planks and lazy with it. She would regularly disappear from the shop floor, she wouldn't do the work that needed doing, and would pretend not to notice customers in the shop so I would have to serve them. Part of the job involved selling sacks, 50 pounds, of potatoes. Whoever was working the till would shout to the other one to fetch a sack of potatoes, or to get one of the guys to do it if they happened to be on the premises, so the shop floor was never unattended. One Saturday afternoon, I was in the shop by myself, and only L was out the back, when a customer came in asking for a sack of potatoes. When I shouted for L to get one, there was no response. She was hiding somewhere in the warehouse to get out of having to do anything, so I ended up having to leave the shop floor empty while I got them myself. As you can imagine, I was more than a little cross, so later that day when Elle asked if I would swap my Sunday shift the next day with hers the following week, I jumped at the chance. Because Elle didn't know I'd given my notice in and I would be starting my new job on the Monday morning. One lovely morning, I drove to Safeway to pick up some prescriptions for my husband and I. Of course I had my mask on. I was wearing black jeans with a black D on top with brown leather shoes. There were two people in line ahead of me, and because of social distancing, I was a pretty good distance from the counter. As I waited, several people walked past me in either direction. I made eye contact with each person as they passed and made my best attempt at a masked smile for each of them. A small, ancient, masked Mennonite woman approached me directly. "Do you have Benadryl?" the old woman implored. The question was so simple, I almost took it personally, but I caught myself. No, I answered, but she probably does. I gestured toward the store employee hustling past me with a freight boat at top speed. I really had thought fast with that reply. The employee paused in her mad dash with an air of confusion. What? The employee said, "How can I help you?" She added, her professional instincts kicking in. "Do you have Benadryl? Do you know where I can find the Benadryl?" she asked sweetly in her adorable old lady voice. "Oh, yes. It's, she looked, "It's over there." She pointed toward a set of shelves with lots of kinds of medicines on them, then continued pushing her freight boat. The old woman went over to the shelves, I moved forward in line and continued to wait. The next guy went through really fast and I got my turn. I took my medicines and turned to go. I noticed the woman still there looking at the shelves, the Benadryl just below where she was looking. "Hey, the Benadryl is right here, ma'am," I said to her. I pointed at the Benadryl and smiled. "Thanks," she said, and quickly got what she needed. The end. So this happened today. It isn't the first time and it certainly won't be the last, but today really got to me. I work in banking and the bank I currently work for has a lot of other services and companies whose names start with the same as mine: airlines, TV services, mobile phone, days out and so on. This causes a lot of confusion as most of these places are now owned by different companies. Also bear in mind we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're not meant to be touching other people's stuff. An old man walks into the store and slams a letter in front of me expecting that I was just going to open it. I politely tell him I can't touch it, so he opens it and I know that there's going to be a problem as the letter has a logo from one of the other places. I explain, "Sir, this is a bank and we have nothing to do with other company, he needs to call them." Without a single hesitation he starts to tell me that someone else has been using his phone and he couldn't get back from holiday because he had no money left on it, and why has he got this letter? This not being the first time this has happened, I looked into it. I explained the network has been upgraded, they've disconnected all the old SIM cards and sent out replacements. This is where he starts yelling at me, telling me he knows his phone has been cut off because someone has been using all his credit, then insists that I tell him why we've sent him a card and this letter. Once again I tell him this is a bank and we have no connection to other company whatsoever, in fact we now belong to the bank across the road. Turns out he knows because he's also a banking customer. He continues to yell and slams his phone in front of me and insists I open it. I refuse, to which he exclaims I'm being ridiculous because it's not going to bite, so I make a point of absolutely covering my hands in sanitizer to open the phone and again after I've touched it. He makes me read out the no SIM message on the phone, and he says something along the lines of, "See, they've used all my phone and I was stranded." I once again try and tell him that the bank just deals with money, but the letter now back in his hand contains everything he needs, including a contact number, to make his phone work again. His SIM will have been disconnected, that no one apart from him has used his phone, and his replacement SIM is in his hand. He stands and glares at me for a moment longer before I say there is nothing more I can do for him and can he please leave the shop as we can only have a limited number of customers in the bank at any one time. He eventually leaves, and I head off to the staff room so I can have a good rant to myself and throw a few choice words around. At my last job, and now in my current job, I would have these mandatory performance reviews that include my performance goals for the upcoming year. When I sign up for these, it's with the express purpose of preparing for a merit increase at the end of the period. This never happened in my last job because they were always making bad decisions that left them scrambling to make ends meet, much less try to give people pay raises. In my new job, of course, there's been an impact from COVID, so I was told there would be no merit increases this year because there's no money available. Okay, I get it, and it's fine because I wasn't eligible this time around anyway, but for next year, they're already saying no raises at the end of this year, but they still want us to do the performance reviews and goal setting. Of course you want your workforce to continue to improve and to meet the demands of the job, but I'm doing that. I just get a kind of minor issue with putting in the effort to do the performance review, but with no payoff from me in it. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. In my last job, it was completely pointless because no one even cared, not the employees, the bosses, or the managers. It was just a box you had to check, but here, it's like you're supposed to be all chipper about it like it's going to mean something. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a long-time referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. Starting around 3 months ago I began receiving spam text notifications, not a big deal, but it was annoying and so I looked for ways to make them stop. After a quick Google search it recommended turning on the filter unknown senders option in my iPhone settings, which should put the spam texts in a separate category. Unfortunately, this did absolutely nothing and the spam messages stayed in the same category as my normal texts. So I shrug it off and decide to just delete them as they show up. Come 2 months later I decided to start looking for a new job. I come across one job in the field I am studying and am barely qualified, but excited for, and to top it off the pay was above average for the position. Today, a month passed by with no response from the employer, but still plenty of spam messages. Great. I remembered I had turned on the setting to remove spam and turns out it had, in fact, filtered one text message. It was from the employer stating that I looked like a great candidate and they'd like to have me in for an interview ASAP. That message was over 3 weeks old. I frantically checked to see if their job is still listed on the website, but it has expired. So now I'm sitting here with a missed opportunity on a great job and annoying spam texts. Thanks iPhone setting. And #X200B. DL, Doctor, the iPhone setting filter unknown senders is great for filtering out job opportunities, bad for filtering out spam. Edit, typo. So this is my first post here. I'm a bartender at a local wing place in a small town where we get a lot of cottagers/entitled city people. Last night was fairly busy for a Sunday. We now have the option to dine in instead of just takeout, so I had a couple tables going and a few people at the bar, and I was by myself. So I noticed these 2 men outside wearing masks looking in and they waved me over. I had an extra moment so I went outside and asked them if I could help them with something. They asked if they had to wear masks inside to order takeout. I pointed to the large sign on the door they were just looking through that says yes, you have to wear masks inside the restaurant. They kinda groan, and ask if I can bring them out a takeout menu. I shrug and agree because I figured they'd be coming in to order. Keep in mind again they've been still wearing masks while standing outside the entire time. I head back inside because I still have tables to look after, only to hear them knocking on the door about 5 minutes later, gesturing me out again. I roll my eyes a little this time but go out and ask them what else I can help with. They say they're ready to order. I ask if they'd like to come inside then so I can punch it in for them and give them a total. They say no, you can take it out here. I sigh and take their order, trying my best to stay polite as possible as they take their time ordering one meal to share. I get back inside and punch in their order as they go to sit in their nice shiny expensive convertible car. I finish with my other tables, and when their food is ready I wave at them from inside and they shake their heads and gesture for me again. Annoyed, I shake my head again and wait for them to come inside. They won't. So I end up standing just outside the door. They ask me to bring it to their car. Sorry sir, we don't do curbside delivery. You need to come here and pay your bill and get your food. Again they're both still wearing masks. They finally relent and come up and pay for their food and take it. As they're walking away they tell me, you wouldn't have had to do all this extra work if you allowed us in without masks, and I just shook my head and walked back inside. They were wearing masks outside the entire time? Why couldn't they have come in with them? I swear some people are so dumb these days. So this happened a few weeks ago. Me and a few of my family members went camping next to a big lake and it was beautiful, with equally beautiful weather. The next morning my sister makes everyone breakfast and we're all sitting around talking and eating. I take a big bite of a slice of toast and chew. I look down at the remaining toast in my hand and to my absolute disgust there is half a dragonfly's body stuck to the butter and bite marks of my toast. This poor little thing was twitching away with no head and missing half its body. I immediately start spitting out what's in my mouth and rush for water. I will always be more cautious when eating outside now. And it makes me tremble every time I think about it. TL, doctor didn't look when I took a bite of food, bit in half and chewed half a dragonfly. So we were laying in bed laughing and talking together, when I decided to get on top of her and start tickling her. We were both laughing and enjoying ourselves. But when I decided to get off of her, I put all of my weight onto my right knee and didn't realize that her knee was below it. All of a sudden I felt it slide, and she was in instant pain. Yelling due to the pain. She then cried out, "I can't move it," and then bent it and her kneecap went back into place. I ran downstairs to get her ice bags. When I came back upstairs I still didn't completely know what I had done. All I could tell is that she was in pain and I was sitting there like a complete idiot. Turns out that her kneecap was dislocated a year ago, but still, I feel like shoot. The amount of pain she was in the moment after it dislocated, and I had no clue what I had done. TL Dr. Tifu, by dislocating my GF's kneecap, she was in a lot of pain. Well, hello again banking family, thanks in advance for your input, and just letting me vent as well as have a place to express my thoughts. I'm sure they have their reasons. But none of us at my branch can understand the choice they made. We are the busiest branch, numbers don't lie. We barely have enough people even when we are rarely fully staffed, and recently they just extended our branch business hours. We found out yesterday that they have eliminated one of our teller positions for the first time in a year. We were finally fully staffed for maybe 3 weeks, and that teller will be moved to one of our slower branches. We are constantly swamped. Does anyone have any insight on why? Like why? Are you trying to drive us even more crazy? It makes one uneasy about job security, like we're lucky to have our jobs during COVID, but if they're willing to take a position from a branch who needs that help, putting that branch's employees through longer hours, and removing any quarterly compensation, what's next? They've already closed like 6 branches in the region over the last year. I'm hoping there will be a bright side, because it's becoming more and more difficult to stay positive. Thank you all again. I live in a small apartment building. There are 6 units, 3 downstairs, and 3 upstairs, where I live. My husband and I live in the middle unit, and another couple lives on one side. The other side has been vacant for months. As I was taking the laundry downstairs, I heard steps and saw a glimpse of bushy brown hair and a beard at the bottom of the stairs. The laundry was obstructing my view, but I recognized the person as my husband. I called down, "Hi Daddy. I missed you today." I don't want to hear how creepy you think it is to call my partner Daddy. It might not be your cup of tea, and I understand a lot of people think it's weird. It's something that works for us and that we both like. Y'all. I almost dropped the laundry basket down the stairs. It was not Daddy. It was not Daddy. Flustered, I shouted from behind the mountain of laundry, "Oh goodness. I'm so sorry, I thought you were my husband. Which, in retrospect, probably didn't make the situation much better. He got to the top of the stairs and said, "I'm Bob and I just moved in," while gesturing to the apartment next door to me. "Have a good night. I'll see you around." DL, Doctor, I called my new neighbor Daddy.